What's up, Commanders family? Welcome back to another episode of Reedie Zee. The Washington Commanders fall to 2-2 after a 34-27 loss to the Atlanta Falcons. Today we're going to dive into what went wrong, from the defense giving up explosive plays to penalties to missed opportunities to Michael Penix to Bijan Robinson to Kyle Pitts to Drake London, all dominating and exposing the Washington Commanders defense. Stay tuned. Don't go nowhere. Reedie Zee coming up right now.
It's the Reedie Zee Show. Reedie Zee Show. It's the Reedie Zee Show. Reedie Zee Show. Reedie Zee Show.
Yo, what's up? It's Z, Reedie Zee, here for Monday Command to talk about the Washington Commanders and our loss to the Atlanta Falcons. Yesterday, our team was pretty much exposed and dominated. The defense was flat. They gave up big chunk plays, played horrible, missed opportunities, penalties. You're talking about coverages where guys are in the wrong place, just got exploited. And we're gonna start out just simply talking about the defense. We normally talk about offense and kind of roll over, but today we talking about the defense because the defense is why I believe we lost this game. First thing first, on first downs, Michael Penix and this offense had a lot of plays on first down. They had 21 first down plays, and instead of forcing long second downs, long situations on third downs, we allowed consistent positive gains from their offense, chunk plays that kind of set it up where Atlanta gained 5+ yards on 12 out of 21 first downs. Again, 12 out of 21 first downs, they scored more than 5 yards. They turned 4 plays of 15 yards or more on the first down, which included a 69-yard catch and run by Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson came to play in this game. They exploited the mismatches. There was times where Bobby Wagner was left in one-on-one situations with Bijan, which is a total mismatch. Offenses are scheming up against Joe Whitt. We saw it earlier on in week 2 in the Packers game, where they came out at Matt LaFleur and they picked the defense apart. Jacobs did his thing a little bit. The tight end Kraft did his thing that week, and this week it was no other than Kyle Pitts who came in and did his thing. On the first drive, on the third, I think it was the third and short, Kyle Pitts down the field for like a 30-yard catch. A guy that had a slow season to start this year, but typically when you play Washington, guys have their breakouts. You saw Michael Penix last week. He was flat against the Panthers and ended up being benched for Kirk Cousins when they lost 30-0 against the Panthers. Michael Penix comes out and throws for 300+ yards in this game. Drake London had a big game. Like, the offensive weapons for the for the Falcons came to play, and our defense was just left in a whirlwind trying to figure it out. Even when we managed to win on the first downs, it was few far in between. Why was it a big problem? It was a lack of disruption. Our defense failed to penetrate on the line of scrimmage to kind of even pressure Penix on the early downs. We allowed Atlanta to run their full playbook, keeping us guessing. We saw motions after motion. We saw, we saw the usage of Bijan coming out of the backfield in the passing game. We saw him in the running game. We saw Algier, on like a key play made. Actually, that was on the touchdown. Von Miller gets back there and has him in the backfield for a tackle for loss, and he missed the tackle, and he goes up through the hole down the sideline, kind of makes a few moves, and walks in the end zone. Missed tackles was a key thing for this defense yesterday. And it just showed. Marshall Lattimore was attacked early by Drake London, They're catching him on the pick routes again. They threw a bomb on like a second and third down, threw a bomb down the field where Lattimore was, caught chasing, and Drake London was able to stretch out and make the catch. There was a lot of plays where, Lattimore has given up big plays first down. I don't know how true it is, but I heard on the radio today on Grant and Danny, where Danny said that Lattimore has accounted for 15 touchdowns for the opposing offense this year. He has been, they've other teams have connected against him for 15, not touchdowns, first downs, 15 first downs, which is still huge. Atlanta was able to sustain drives, picking up the easy yardage. They avoided third and long situations. I mean, it was times where it was 3rd and 5 and 3rd and 4 and, situations like that. But it was very rarely where you saw a 3rd and 10, a 3rd and 12. And a lot of it was momentum killers with, the explosive first down plays like the 43-yard strike to London. And like we mentioned earlier, the 69-yard reception by Bijan Robinson. It flipped the field position. We was kind of chasing from behind the whole game, and the defense just looked abysmal. Even through that, we still weren't down a lot. We ended up losing the game by 10 points. Well, no, by 7 points because we kicked the field goal at the end and right before the onside. But I mean, we was pretty much in the game. This game could have been a lot worse than what it was. The score could have been kind of crazy. I mean, Atlanta did have a couple of drops as well, but it was this big play after big play. When your defense is pretty much giving up 8 yards every first down, that was the average. You're pretty much, essentially putting yourself in bad situations and giving them, like them short second downs, them short third downs, and they were able to convert. Even on offense, the Washington converted 1 of 8 on third down attempts. So third down efficiency was a huge thing. Atlanta converted 6 of 12 of their third down attempts. So, you're talking 50% of their third downs where they converted in a comparison. Also, on Atlanta's key 69-yard drive late in the game, Michael Penix converted 3 first downs during that stretch. This was at the end of the game when this was actually after Debo scored and we went for 2 and we were down 7. The defense came out. I believe at that time it was probably about 6 or 7 minutes left on the clock. It probably was 8 minutes left on the clock at that time, and they were able to milk the clock because they were able to convert on those third downs. They extended drives and kind of, took time and time got away from us. Also, I would like to see, earlier in the first half, in my opinion, that we had 3 timeouts. I think it was about a minute and some change on the clock. And we pretty much let the clock run down. And we let the clock run down. We ran a play. It didn't work out. Atlanta ended up getting the ball. Nothing came out of that situation, but I felt like at least at that moment where you're down 10, if you can, move the ball, even try to get in field goal range. Again, you had 3 timeouts with like a minute and 26, and you're on like the 30. You had an opportunity to try to push the ball downfield to take some momentum going into the halftime because you were getting the ball back anyway. I just felt like the coaches were very passive and very like just laid back in that process. I feel like, Dan Quinn talks a lot about the 2-minute drill and how it's important and how much we practice it. And it just feel like, through 4 games, the 2-minute drill has been a little rusty. Last year, the 2-minute drill was nothing but crisp for us. We converted a lot. We made things happen. We had a lot of, game-winning situations at the end of games. We had, even right before halves, we were able to at least kind of go down and get some points. But that hasn't been the case this year, and I'm not sure what's going on there. And I feel like not only are, the coaches, not only are the players having issues on the field, but I feel like coaches are having issues as well with just the X's and O's and overall. I feel like, offensively, we didn't run the ball enough. We averaged about 6 or 7 yards a pop. Not McNichols, I'm sorry. Rodriguez had 7 carries. Bill had 7 carries, both averaging over 6 to 7 yards per pop. And even on the drive where we did score, the first touchdown with Luke McCaffrey ended up scoring, Rodriguez came in and had a 48-yard run on that drive. 48-yard run. And we were driving down the field, and Luke McCaffrey stepped up big, and caught the touchdown to get us on the board. I feel like later on in the game, Bill, when he got in, another situation where he was having positive yards, getting some chunk plays. Well, I'm sorry, not chunk plays, but getting on his runs, getting a little 6 yards here, 7 yards here, 5 yards there, making them count. But for whatever reason, and I get it. I was talking to a fan in the comments earlier, and we were just talking about how like the game may have felt like we were chasing and we were behind so much. But again, just like in the Green Bay game, I feel like if you're down 7 to 10 points or 1 to 2 possessions, and you're in those situations in this second, third quarter, you don't have to pass so much. You can still run the ball. You can still be efficient. And the offense didn't properly gain rhythm. The offense failed to be consistent, and when we in those chasing modes, at the end you kind of trying to convert something, and you're being gritty and you're pushing the ball downfield. And shout out to Deebo Samuel, who continues to make plays. He made a hell of a, early on the first drive where we scored, he made a hell of a fourth down catch to get us the first down on the out route. He made a hell of a fourth down catch, on the fade to get us the touchdown. When we end up scoring on that score we had early, later on in the fourth quarter before, Atlanta got the ball and milked the clock. Deebo, he's getting his end arounds. He's over the middle. Deebo is all over the field making plays. The one true weapon that we really, really had at receiver, made plays. And, it just shows that he's not washed. He's not the slow individual that everybody said. Deebo is, he's fighting for a contract. He's fighting for his name, and he's showing up this year. I would like to see more come out of this offense, but I feel like in reference to Deebo Samuel, he's doing his job. Outside of that, of course, we know Terry McLaurin wasn't able to play in this game, he's dealing with the quad injury. And we'll have some updates later on about that. But with Terry McLaurin out, you expected that, the teams are going to kind of that Atlanta was going to focus in and lock in on Deebo. But with us moving them around and so much and, getting them in different areas of the offense, it was kind of hard for them to kind of shut him down. Jayden Lane, he played. He did okay. He ended up having like a catch, but there was a bomb that Mariota threw to him that ended up being a pick. I don't know why Mariota threw that ball. I feel like he rushed that one. It was not needed there. That was a drive that we was trying to, get something out of it. And he ended up forcing a pass deep down the field. He ended up throwing his first interception of the season. And I believe it may have been his first interception since being with us, because even last year he didn't really throw any interceptions at all. So that was very uncharacteristic of Mariota in that moment. Not sure why he did that, but it was, like I said, it just felt like we were just chasing. And, in that situation, he may have got a little antsy. He may have felt like he needed to make a play. I just don't feel like it was going to be on that play, because the safety was over top and the corner was there. Lane had no one beat. Lane is a shorter guy, so he's not going up and jumping over nobody. So it was a lose-lose situation. I feel like, you got to throw the ball underneath, or, find a check down in that situation, or roll out and throw the ball away. And I believe that was on second down. So, that was a mishap there for Mariota. But, in the wide receiver room, we didn't really have much there. Chris Moore had a key drop on the sideline, but he also had a couple of other catches that, did okay. Zach Ertz, of course, Zach is Zach. He got his. He was wide open on the Luke McCaffrey touchdown. But actually both of them ended up being open. So lucky, Mariota was able to get the ball downfield to him, in that end zone for Luke right there. But, outside of that, as far as the offense, I just feel like overall, like we mentioned earlier, we just have to be consistent. We have to gain some type of rhythm. We cannot panic. And we got to stop with the penalties, holding penalties, offsides penalties, and the false starts. Leave his hand to the face. That's offensively. The penalties that we would drive killers. Bill had a nice catch out of the backfield that ended up getting called back. I believe Jaden Lane had a nice catch that ended up getting called back. So penalties are killing us when we do have like big plays. And offensively and defensively. Even on the defense, we're getting holding calls, we're getting pass interference calls on key downs. Marshall Lattimore again continues to get torched. Even Mikey Sanders still, he got scored on. Yeah, he redeemed himself with a pick, but Mikey's looking a little rusty. I don't know if it's because they put him back in the inside, and nickel corner is one of the hardest positions to play. And I guess he's trying to find his way there, but I feel like that he's taken a step back this year for whatever reason. And that's not to knock Mikey. That's not to say that he's not capable of rebounding, but just through 4 games, his production has taken a fall. Even Trey Amos, got passes caught on him yesterday. So, and he's the rookie has been looking like our best corner thus far, arguably. But all 3 of the corners had their share of plays. But with Lattimore, Lattimore is being attacked by teams with this man-to-man stuff, playing off 8 and 9 yards on 3rd and 2s, and it's just it's an abysmal. Shout out to Revo on that 69-yard catch from Bijan Robinson going down the sideline. Revo ran and walked this man. They said Revo reached 22 miles per hour on that play. Didn't even know the guy was that fast. Revo is a baller. He was able to walk him down and get the stop. I believe Kyle Pitts ended up scoring on that. Still end up scoring on that drive, but that one play just showed a lot of effort from Revo. And he continues to get his reps, and his reps are increasing on defense. So shout out to the leader making a big play there. Other than that, I just think that we just got to relax. We have to relax. Cliff Kingsbury is, to me, Cliff Kingsbury isn't in his bag. Like he's it's like it's not really flowing well. I didn't see a lot of screens this game, and to be honest, I'm kind of tired of the screens. The motions, Debo did have the most, but you also not having your weapons, it's kind of hard how you call the offense. So that could be, that could be a thing. And I'm only gonna, if it is, I'm only will allow him the excuse for this game because even week 1 felt the offense was a little sluggish, even though we ran the ball well and we was able to put up 21 points on the Giants. And like we said, week 2 the offense was flat. It hurt us against the Packers in week 3. Everything was just hitting on all cylinders, and we look like, a top team in this league to only come back next week. And like I said, to give up 300 plus yards to Michael Penix. So it was definitely a rough game in a sense. It was a takeover down in Atlanta. We had a lot of fans that was boots on the ground. We had people DMing us, seeing if we was at the game. We had people, and our close friends, that we affiliate ourselves with often that was down at the game. It was a game that we considered going to as well because we went 2 years ago, and we had a ball. But a lot of people came out of Atlanta yesterday pissed off at this defense because we got exposed. We ended up with a key injury. Baptiste has a pec injury, and Dan Quinn says that he's going to be out for a while. What that means, we don't know. He's going to have surgery, and the surgery will determine if he's going to be on our 4 weeks or for the year. So that's going to be determined probably tomorrow or Wednesday once they figure out the surgery and the duration of the recovery. Dan Quinn mentioned that Sam Cosby is close to his 21-day practice window. Somebody that we really, really need back. We feel like, well, yesterday, I think Marcus was only sacked once, maybe once or twice, but overall, I think that just helps us in the run game, and it's going to help us in the pass game to kind of get the offensive line kind of, back in the mode and get a key Pro Bowl caliber guy back out there with his team. I feel like once Cosme is back out there, he's going to pick up where he left off, and he's going to be that solid right guard that we drafted him to be, and that he was thus up to the injury. Noah Brown, Terry McLaurin, and John Bates. Dan Quinn mentioned that they all are, trending in the right way. He didn't specify timables on their returns. And then he mentioned Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels had a really good workout on Saturday. They're establishing his plan today and tomorrow. They're establishing a plan for him this week as far as working out and building up to see if he'll be game ready for Sunday against the Chargers, which will be a homecoming for Jayden. I think Jayden plays. Looking at the tape last week when they put out a clip of him at practice, he was moving shifty. He was, doing bag drills. He was doing his calisthenics, and he looked pretty, swift. He didn't look like he had any, anything hinging him. So we'll see how that works out for him. But I think personally that Jayden may be ready, but we'll see as the week go along. And then we'll just kind of go from there and see how everything falls. We end up calling up Tay Martin for this game, and he ended up having a catch. In this game, I don't know if next game they'll do the same. We saw Tate Martin get called up before Jacoby Jones, before Ja'Cory Brooks. I thought Ja'Cory Brooks would have been a lock there, but Tate Martin must have been impressing the coaches a lot more than Ja'Cory, and he got the call. So we'll see how all these things unfold. But Joe Whitt has a lot of work to do. The Atlanta Falcons had 435 total yards to our 274. The Falcons outgained us by 140 yards. On the passing efficiency, they were 20 for 26 for 313, 2 touchdowns and an interception. That lone interception went to Mikey Sanders still. Where Mariota was 6 for 27, 156 yards, 2 touchdowns and the interceptions that I mentioned. And Penix's high completion rate and the big plays kind of contrast to Mariota's more modest output. The Falcons made the most out of their throws, a lot of, out of their offense than we did. Like I mentioned earlier, some of the key things to this loss, third down efficiency, they were 6 for 12, 50%. We were 1 for 8. This is one of the big storylines from that game. We were not able to convert on third down. The big plays, they had multiple plays of over 15 yards. Like we mentioned, chunk plays exploited our defense. They averaged 6.8 yards a play. They are, averaging nearly 7 yards every time you snap it is this, a recipe for success for Atlanta. So we got to be better. We have to get pressure. Michael Penix wasn't pressured much. I know Dorrance Armstrong, he started out the first 3 games with a sack. No sack yesterday. Von Miller, like I mentioned, he had to miss tackle, but they didn't really get much pressure on Penix. Preston Smith was inactive. Now that Baptiste is down, I expect more out of Preston Smith moving forward. We'll see what they do. Man, I'm sure maybe Jalen Holmes probably get some more reps. We'll see if they, call someone else up or make a signing there. But, injuries are plaguing this team this year. Last year we got through kind of squeaky clean with a little minor injuries here. And that's why this year through 4 games, you're talking Jayden, you're talking about Bates, you're talking Terry, Eckler, Wise, now Baptiste. You even had what's the safety? Will Harris. We got guys just falling all over the place when it comes to these injuries. and it's hitting us hard. So we got to be creative. Guys got to step up, and do their jobs and kind of get in the fold and catch on quick for us to kind of even touch or sniff what we gave last year. We got a long way to go, sitting at 2-2. But it's a lot of football left, so I'm not panicking. I'm a tad bit worried, but I'm not panicking. And the only reason I'm worried is because I want to see the adjustments. Through 4 games, I would have felt like, you know, the defense would adjust it, especially against the pass, against the run. Week 1 and week 3, week 2 you can argue that because they kind of contain Jacobs slightly, but week 1 and week 3 we pretty much dominated against the run, whereas yesterday wasn't necessarily the case. We got to make sure that we get ready and be ready for this LA Chargers. They're not a slouch. They are, a tough team. They got a wide receiver in Keenan Allen, who's over there hooping. Lad McConkey hasn't done much this year, but Quentin Johnson is definitely hooping. Amari Hampton is starting to ramp up. The last 2 games he's had, great outings. So their offense has come around. They did take a loss to the Giants. They did lose their star left tackle in Joe Alt. So they have some injuries that they're going through as well. But they won't be a slouch. Harbaugh is going to have that team ready. So we got to make sure we're ready. Just real quick before I close out, I'm going to reiterate the key reasons that I felt we lost this game, which one was defensive breakdowns and missed tackles. Like we said, we allowed 435 total yards to the Atlanta Falcons with 15 plays of 10 or more yards. We missed 12 total tackles in the game. And Dan Quinn quoted and said, "That's too high." The Falcons averaged 7 yards a play. The pass rush didn't consistently affect Michael Penix. He only got sacked once. And Dan Quinn admitted that we didn't employ enough stunts or creative pressure to disrupt Penix in the game. Another key reason why we lost: the Falcons' offensive efficiency and explosive plays. Like we said, it was 20 for 26 for 313 with 2 touchdowns. Bijan Robinson ended up with 75 rushing yards, 106 receiving yards with a touchdown for a total of 181 total yards. Drake London had 8 catches for 110 yards and a tutty. Like we mentioned, the big play on the 69-yarder and 50% of their third downs was key. The last key reason we lost this game: our offense inconsistency, mistakes, and missed opportunities. We moved the ball at times. We had 5 scoring drives, but we got stalled and had to keep selling it for field goals. Matt Gay yesterday, I believe, made 3 field goals. We end up getting into, situations where we were driving the ball and the penalties may have killed the drive, or we were, pushing the ball downfield and just wasn't able to convert on the third downs. Mentioned again, we were 1 of 8. Not being able to convert on them third downs, I had to settle for field goals. Penalties hurt us in key spots. There was definitely a 3rd and 2 with Zach Ertz, had the false start. And, that was a drive killer. Outside of the interception that Mariota threw, I mentioned Devon Miller missed tackle on the final drive. We got to the 24-yard line, but had to settle for a field goal. And then an onside kick because we was trying to save time. We kicked the field goal on the 2nd down. With Kyle Pitts kind of caught the onside kick and sealed the game for them. One of the things Dan Quinn mentions is that the offense took care of the ball overall, aside from the interceptions. But he emphasized the lack of takeaways from the defense as a limiting factor. So that's all I have for y'all. Make sure you like, share, subscribe at Reedie Zee on all platforms. Make sure you stay tuned in for episodes that we have. Every Monday, we have the Monday Command. Every Wednesday, we hop on with our guys, John and Juan, with the Burgundy Breakdown. where we that's our collab show. We do that every Wednesday night at 9:45. Also, every now and then we may do a Friday command depending on when the game falls. And then, you know, our pregame lives, our live watch parties, and our postgame lives as well. So make sure you tap in with us and stay tuned into what we got going on. You got a lot more to come, a lot of content to create. So stay locked in with us. And also, I wanted to shout out to our sponsor, Elite Locks. Elite Locks dropped a free play the other day. We posted on the page, so make sure you guys are following us and Elite Locks, because every week there's going to be free plays released. And you know, we dropped a free lock and it cashed. It was a plus 789 bet. So make sure you tap into them. But stay tuned for this video real quick about Elite Locks. And I'll be right back. Yo, what's up? What's up? This is Z, Reedie Zee here. I'm here to do a sponsor shout out to our new official sponsor, Elite Locks. If you're looking to boost your winnings, Elite Locks have you covered. They put in the research to handpick the best plays so you don't have to. Whether you're trying to make a quick flip or play the long game with high-stake bets, they got packages for every bettor. The best part, you're not just getting plays, you're getting expert advice to help you maximize your returns. Once you grab a package, just shoot them a screenshot in their DMs and they will send you over access to your plays. We're rocking with Elite Locks for a reason. Tap in with them and let's make money together. As always, gamble responsibly. If you need help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Elite Locks. But yeah, so like I said, stay tuned for all that Reedie Zee has in store. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. We'll see y'all to the next.
Reedie Zee Show. It's the Reedie Zee Show.